Hi, this
Hi.
is Susan Michel in Western Massachusetts with my good Course in Miracles soul sister, Myrna Skoller in Florida. You look so beautiful today, as always. How are you,
Thank you.
Myrna?
Good. How are you
I'm
today?
good. I'm good. I'm the author of Surrender to Joy from Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we're all here to study, to learn, to embody the truth of. Myrna is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus from A Course in Miracles, along with, I think it's 5 other books, but I always stress the Private Lessons with Jesus while we're here because that's based on A Course in Miracles, which I love, love, love. So I will start out with the introduction of my book. What I write in my introduction is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection with all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. So, what A Course in Miracles is teaching us is only the love is real. So when we are connected to our joy and we are at peace, we are able to be a conduit for God's divine miracles. That is the goal. That's what we are learning. However, so many of us in our earthly bodies um, are not connected to God consistently. Uh, this world is a classroom. This world is triggering what's in our unconscious mind that needs to be healed. So I continue to vacillate. I was listening to Lisa Natoli today. She had a talk on YouTube, and she was stressing the fact that you are either with the darkness or with the light. You can't have a little darkness and a little light at the same time. And I agree with that. You can't. However, I will say in my day, there's sometimes where I just see the beauty in my brother and I extend God's love and I set the stage for a miracle. And other times I block it. I guess that's just uh, part of my humanity. But when I'm connected to God, I feel the joy. And when I allow the ego to enter into my mind and I start to worry, I don't feel so joyful. I guess another point that Lisa Natoli was making, I just finished listening to her video when I called you, Myrna, is that acceptance is really important. It's important to accept everything in our life exactly as it is because resistance causes anxiety. Resistance causes discord. It's important to accept everything in our life exactly as it is. I mean, A Course in Miracles teaches the 3 fastest ways to get yourself plugged into your God socket is forgiveness, gratitude, and acceptance. So I do believe that acceptance is key. I mean, we are right here, right now, and this is the only place we can be. When we're thinking about the past, we're aligned with our ego. When we're projecting onto the future, we're aligned with our ego. But when we are right here, right now, in the present, and uh, we are grateful for everything that we have in our life, that is a great way to set the stage for a miracle. That's a great way to align our mind with the thoughts of God, right, Myrna?
Yes, I like you brought in miracles because the book is entitled A Course in Miracles. And the course very deftly tells us what miracles are. Miracles are all about trusting in God, trusting that if we let ourselves just be as we are and not deceiving ourselves as to who we are, and recognizing that we are, we step up to the plate, realizing we are products of God, we're God's holy souls. He created us as himself, which is love. And I've learned to recognize a miracle, because miracles are ongoing. They absolutely are. Miracles have come to me when I've needed them the most, and I don't and I think I've given myself the advantage of allowing myself to just go with the flow when things happen, and trusting that that a miracle will appear, and it always does. If we just, and every time I see another miracle, I always say, okay, that's it. I'm never going to worry about anything again. And then, of course, the next time, you have a situation, get triggered, you get upset, you become fearful, then and then something wonderful comes of it. Whereas again, I see another miracle coming out of that. That I always say, gee, I never should have doubted. I never, never, never. And I'm coming much, much better at realizing that that it's so much. I look back at some of the situations that have come up in my life where if it wasn't for a miracle, I don't know how else it would have been resolved. And there are so many instances where this happens, and I truly, truly, after a lot of recognition that miracles are all right, we are miracle oriented because God gives us miracles that we're so entitled to. As the Course in Miracles says, the miracle is our birthright. And when I think about that, and get into the love of God, because no matter what I do, no matter how many mistakes I've made in the past, and still make mistakes, and that's all they are, really. They're mistakes, but I feel so forgiven. I feel so, completely in God's grace, no matter what I do, and what I've done. And I can tell you that the Course in Miracles has been such a great savior for me, because it has been a lifesaver for me in that all that I need is within those pages. Every affirmation is a very strong willingness. Okay, an affirmation is a belief. It's an affirmation. It's a declaration, and every affirmation in the book, every title in the book, and every lesson title in the book is very powerful. So you can pick up the Course in Miracles at any time. Today's lesson is the glory of my Father is my own. The glory of my Father is my own. And here again, it tells me that God gives me, he shares. His glory is my glory. And believe it. And then there's a prayer with that. That's beautiful. It says, we thank you, Father, for the light that shines forever in us. And we honor it because you share it with us. We are one, united in this light, and one with you, at peace with all creation and ourselves. And this is what it tells us. We are at peace. We don't know it. We look around and we see all these distractions that if we allow to disrupt our peace, then we're allowing it. If it does disrupt our peace. And if we don't allow it and stick to the affirmation, stick to the prayer, stick to the meditation, if we do meditation, stick to that, it all works. It all works to our benefit. And I've seen it. I'm living proof of it. You too, I'm sure. We all are.
Yeah, today's lesson 239 is beautiful. The
Hi, Regis.
glory.
Regis is here. Yeah. Hi, Regis. I see Regis.
So today's lesson 239, states, the glory of my Father is my own.
Mhm.
And you read the prayer, so I will read the first paragraph because it is so brilliant. And it states, "Let not the truth about ourselves today be hidden by a false humility." It's like when we put ourselves down, we're actually blocking the miracles. So it's not about, I guess it's not about bragging about ourselves, but it's about acknowledging the fact that we uh, have the greatness of God because we are a part of God. You know, it's about honoring the truth of who we are, honoring the beauty in ourselves. I mean, just because when we put ourselves down, when we're overly humble, again, we're blocking God's divine love. And we're actually, when we put ourselves down, it's like we're slapping God in the face. We're saying God made a mistake when he created us, and he didn't make a mistake. I mean, that's like that beautiful poem by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. I mean, so many of us are afraid of our brilliance, but it's not our brilliance, it's God's brilliance that we have the power to tap into whenever we choose. And it's just such a miraculous truth. And so then Jesus writes, "Let us instead be thankful for the gifts our Father gave us." The three easiest ways to tap into that beauty within ourselves, the three easiest ways to plug ourselves into our God socket is forgiveness, gratitude, and acceptance. So here, Jesus Christ is reminding us to be thankful. Can we see in those with whom he shares his glory any trace of sin and guilt? When we see sin or we see guilt within our brother or within ourselves, again, we block God's grace. We block the flow of life. We block God's love. So, and that's an affirmation that I say on a daily basis right now is I embody the essence of innocence, because it is just so empowering to release guilt and focus on our innocence. You know, I mean, I can feel a shift in the way I feel when I focus on my own innocence. And can it be that we are not among them when he loves his son forever and with perfect constancy, knowing he is as he created him? So it says, knowing he with a small h is as he with a capital H created him. So it's important to remember that we did not create ourselves. You know, we were created by God, and God is love, and so are we. And when we focus our mind on what we truly are, we can feel his peace. His peace is also our peace. And it's just so beautiful. You know, I had a friend of mine come down to spend the weekend. She's a friend of mine who has been triggering me for quite a few years now. And what's happening lately is she's not triggering me anymore. So that's really good because we're I guess much more connected now. You know, we've had our ups and downs, but I mean, I love her, she loves me, and it's all good. She's a born again Christian. I'm not. I'm obviously a Course in Miracles student slash teacher. And so she was, I mean, she's going through some stuff. I mean, just like I've noticed we all have our challenges. So she's going through some stuff, and she was talking about something biblical. And she was talking about a post she was doing. That's what she was talking about, a post she was doing on social media. And she said the post cites the biblical quote, fear God and keep his commandments. Now, I did not say anything. And she said, I know you don't like that word fear. And I said, that's right. I don't like that word fear. Because as a Course in Miracles student, and just as a student of the mind, I can't feel God's love when I'm fearing him. Like the two do not go together. I mean, I can honor the fact that someone else adheres to those rules, but those certainly will never be my rules. Because I think, again, if you talk about a God-fearing Christian, there's nothing holy about fear. I mean, fear is the opposite of love. So that's like saying you're black, white, you're chocolate, vanilla, you're good, bad. Like the two are opposites. So, but I thought it was interesting that she knew that wasn't part of my spiritual vocabulary, because God and fear do not go together. And I think when we fear God, we can't love God. When we fear God, we disconnect ourselves from the truth of who we are. We feel separate, because I know anyone in my life who has ever incited fear was someone that I just didn't want to be around. And if God incites fear in us, how can we love him? I mean, the two just don't go together. The Course in Miracles acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And actually, speaking of fear, lesson 240, tomorrow's lesson, states fear is not justified in any form. Fear is deception. So A Course in Miracles is telling us that fear is not of God, right, Myrna?
Totally, yes. Well, I like to speak about fear a lot because when the Course tells you, steadfastly that there's only two places you can be, in love or fear, and there's nothing really in between. So we think of all the countless emotions that come up during the course of a day, doesn't fall under the umbrella of fear. Well, it does if it's not related to love. So fear is so much discussed throughout the Course in Miracles. You mentioned 240. Lesson 48 is another one, and that one is one of the beginning lessons, which says there is nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. So when it tells us, with God, how can we fear? How can we really fear? What are we afraid of? What is there to be afraid of? And if you really feel that level of protection, because we are protected, and all we need to do is just extend ourselves, accept the protection that we're offered. Then that's all we really need to do. And even people who have suffered various tragedies, whether it be physical, whether it be the loss of a loved one, even many of those keep their allegiance to God intact, feeling that they've been made to feel comforted to some degree, whatever the tragedy, whatever the mishap might be. I totally, I love that to speak with you, because you are so, you have that connection to God. You love that connection with God. It's so obvious, even the book that you wrote. I love how you speak of, you bring so many Course in Miracles principles into that book, which really made for a lovely, interesting, getting to know you through that book. I really loved it. From Joy to Surrender. What is it from? I have it in front of me. title.
Surrender to joy,
The
from
Surrender.
suicide to
Yes,
serenity.
right. Yeah, it's a lovely, I mean, it's a wonderful book, and again, that so much of what you've experienced in the past is brought out in this book, starting from a young woman. So from suicide, which is the epitome of fear, which is what greater fear could there be than that? Contemplating suicide, as opposed to the other end of the spectrum, loving God, believing in God, coming. So to come full circle to that extent. And I too have come full circle, from a very fearful young woman, having made many mistakes because of that fear. And then coming to understand that there really there are no sins. I did not create a sin. I only experienced mistakes. That's what the Course tells you. So when you begin to understand that God doesn't consider anything a sin, only a mistake, it's very easy to feel resurrected by that feeling, that statement alone. And I totally have forgiven myself for tons of different aspects of my life where, yeah, I stumbled and made mistakes. And I think we all do. And unless we recognize those mistakes, learn from them, because if you don't learn from your mistakes, then you're only going to do the same thing over and over again, and then you expect a different result, and that never happens. So to understand that a mistake can be corrected and to learn from it, and then just go on, and then to forgive yourself, and to forgive others who might have been in your path, who might have blocked your path previously. And here we are, knowing that really, if we could forgive ourselves and God can forgive us, then how can we not forgive the next one? And that's how I look at it too. If God has forgiven me for what I first believed was sin, then how could I not forgive another? How can I judge another when I was not judged? So that helps me a lot. There's so much that keeps me centered, and we just have to be willing to go there, like, a little bit of willingness. But now it's more than just a little bit of willingness. I think when we first began the Course in Miracles, that little bit of willingness was all we needed. Now we need a whole lot of willingness to, and that's what I say, all right, at this point in time, now you just have to just give yourself over completely. Isn't that right, Susan? Right?
Oh, yeah. And Regis put both of our books up in his
Oh,
square. He
yes,
has
I see.
Surrender to Joy next to Private Lessons with Jesus. Thank you, Regis. And please feel free to raise your hand and share at any time, because you are an extremely wise man and a wise soul. So Myrna said quite a bit in that share. She spoke about forgiveness, and forgiveness is so very important, as we all know, as Course in Miracles students. Now, Myrna has my book also. Thank you, Myrna. One of the lessons is grievances hide the light of the world in me. Grievances are all about unforgiveness. So what happened this morning in my spin class is there was another lady who was spinning next to me. And at the end of the class, we started talking. And I thought this was interesting because she brought up the name of the doctor that I had surgery with, that did a very poor job. And I've held on to a lot of resentment towards him. And I work so hard on forgiving him. Like, I'm very clear in my head about all the people that I have not fully forgiven, and he is definitely one of them. And that's what I told her when his name came up in our conversation. Well, he screwed up my surgery, but I'm working on forgiveness as a good Course in Miracles student. I'm working on forgiveness. And she said, "Oh, well, that's not my experience with him at all. He's been very good to me." She said, "I had skin cancer. And this particular doctor did a lot to partner up with her and just promote skin cancer awareness so people know to check their skin and find the cancer as soon as possible so it can be taken off." And she said that she was very grateful to him for partnering up with her on the subject of skincare and skin cancer, I should say, and informing people how important it is to check their skin. So obviously, this doctor has a very good side. And for me to focus on his strengths and what he has done positive and loving is just a wonderful way for me to release the grievance and align myself with love. So I think that was a good conversation, because I have been trying for years to forgive him, and sometimes I do, but when his name comes up, I still get triggered. So if I still get triggered, that means, there's still some unforgiveness or resentment in me towards him. And God is giving me help, So for me to focus on the good in him is a very positive thing because, we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. His weakness is he screwed up my surgery. But I'm sure, obviously he's a child of God. Obviously he has a good side as well. So I think it was good that this particular lady in my spin class shared that with me, because sometimes in my morning meditation, I bring up all the people that have hurt me in the past. And I focus on sending them love. I focus on, giving them a hug. I focus on forgiveness. And when we can truly forgive and realize whatever they did to hurt me, well, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts I have on that. When somebody hurts you, it's probably they're reflecting back to us something within ourselves that has not yet been healed, right? Because if everything was healed, I mean, did people hurt Jesus Christ when he was at the end of his life? Did they hurt his feelings after he became enlightened? No, I don't think they did. Because whatever they did to him, he gave them love. He didn't have any triggers left in his unconscious mind. That's kind of what I think enlightenment is all about. We've released all our triggers. So, and I believe that's our goal as Course in Miracles students, to bring the darkness to the light and release all our triggers, bring them to the surface, give them to God. So, another subject that you brought up in your share was suicide, because that came up in the subtitle of my book. That suicidal time in my life was years and years ago. That was actually just about 40 years ago. And I was very different mentally. I hadn't yet found A Course in Miracles. Now, as a Course in Miracles student, I know that suicide is never ever ever the answer. I mean, people who do commit suicide, they might leave their body. However, I believe as souls we have lessons to learn. So all suicide is doing, in my mind, is delaying our lesson. We still have to learn the lesson. We might escape the lesson in this body, in this lifetime, by, the suicide. But then, in eternity, we still have to learn the lesson. So suicide does nothing but delay learning. Yeah. So, and our lesson is always learning to love unconditionally. And I think all the challenges that we are presented with in life, I mean, happen to teach us, because everything in our life is a lesson or a blessing, and the lessons turn into blessings when they are processed properly. So there are no accidents, there are no random occurrences. Everything is good, and everything is happening to teach us what we need to learn to grow closer to God. So it's about being grateful, obviously for our blessings, but also be grateful for our lessons. We don't grow despite life's challenges. We grow because of life's challenges. I mean, life's challenges are teaching us what our soul needs to know in order to grow. And when I think about like accepting everything in my life that happens without resisting it at all, it's a very calming way to see the world. That everything is teaching me exactly what I need to know in order to grow. Everything in my life right here, right now is just perfect. All the mistakes I've made are perfect, and just being fully present in the moment with everything in my life. I think that's a very empowering way to live. And I think, when I'm with people, I think the most important thing to me is that they are fully present with me. And I think that was a big trigger between me and this particular friend that came to visit me over the weekend. I felt that many times she was not fully present with me. And I always try to be fully present with other people. I always try to be fully present in the moment. And when I'm speaking with someone and they're distracted, or on the phone, or doing something else as I'm sharing with them, it is a trigger to me. And I know something that my friend did this weekend, which I am so grateful for. I thought this was so fabulous. We went out on the boat one day and she says, I'm going to leave my phone at home. I'm not even going to take my phone with me. And so she left her phone at home. So we were on the boat. She had no phone. So she was fully present with me for the whole day that we were on the boat. I thought that was very thoughtful and very kind. Maybe she knows my triggers, and she's going out of her way to connect to me, which I'm very appreciative of. So I think that was a good sign in our relationship and in our growth, right, Myrna?
Yes. You mentioned suicide. I'd like to get back to that. Because just yesterday, I was having that conversation with somebody, just yesterday. I know that in Switzerland, suicide is very accepted. In other words, they
Mm.
will assist you in a suicide if so be, if you want to, I mean, they think nothing of it. So I wonder whether suicide, we talk about it, it's not the answer. Certainly it isn't for me. It certainly was not for you, nor would it ever be for either of us. But I brought it up on Google, and it says last year, 1,252 people opted to end their lives using the Euthanasia Association in Switzerland. This is an 11% increase in assisted suicide compared to 2022. The Euthanasia organization also has almost 20,000 new members. Okay, at the end of last year, it had 167,631 members. It announced Thursday. Well, let me just go down. In addition to the assisted death, 92,000 members took advantage of the opportunity to deposit their living will. And it goes on to say that people who are elderly, really, who have elderly, just, find, getting old, a very hard place to be. It's really, you can get a suicide. very easily. And where does it say that? The reason for the increase in suicide accompaniment is, among other things, the increasingly aging society with consequent severely debilitating illnesses or disabilities. The average age of people accompanied was 80 years for women, 79 years for men. So anyway, some 31% of those dying had terminal cancer. Well, anyway, it goes on to be much more elaborate, tells it, but it's very interesting because how from just different parts of the world, people sort of accept things a lot differently, no matter where, as to what you've been attuned to, what your beliefs become just because you're living in a certain place. And, we have our beliefs and we're so steadfast in them. And yet in other societies, the beliefs are different. Is that wrong? I don't think that's wrong either. Now that I look at it that way, I know that Pat, my boyfriend, his wife just died. She was in a facility for 3 years in a catatonic state from Alzheimer's. Literally, she just existed. She never got out of bed. She never really opened her eyes. If she did, it would just be for a few minutes. There was no communication. She had no recognition at all. And not only that, but it was a very big expense for him. I mean, it cost $10,000 a month to keep her in this facility, 5,000 of which he had to come up with every month. I think insurance took over the rest of it. But you think about that. People go, you wonder whether or not suicide can sometimes be the answer. It's not the answer when you're, when you're angry, when you're, not fully aware of the consequences of what, you're doing to other people. I mean, your family and so forth. I mean, I think it just takes many faces when you look at it that way. Right, Susan? What do you think about that? Because it's in your book, The Suicide Attempt.
Well, suicide was not the right answer for me at the age of 20. It would have been me leaving this world much too early and not learning the lessons that I needed to learn. I think that's true for the vast majority of people that contemplate suicide. The people that suicide might be beneficial for if someone is extremely ill and in a lot of pain. I'm not going to say it's not the right choice for anyone, but it's a very small percentage of people in my mind that could benefit from it. The vast majority of people that contemplate suicide, obviously need help to deal with the problem that they're experiencing. So that's what I think about suicide. I think that for the most part, I think it needs to be prevented because it doesn't accomplish anything. Because we can't escape our pain by leaving our body. The only way to get to the other side of the pain, in my mind, is to own it. And by owning the pain, then we can release the pain and we can get to the joy on the other side of the pain. Um, that's what I think. And I think that for me, at the age of 20, when I contemplated suicide, it was because I did not have the emotional tools to deal with the pain points that were coming up in my life for healing purposes. I just had so much pain, and my parents did not tolerate uncomfortable emotions in themselves or in me. So I, repeating what they taught me, didn't know how to deal with the pain. So that's why I thought suicide was a way out of the pain, but suicide wasn't a way out of the pain. So thank God it didn't work. Paz has her or his hand up. Paz, would you like to share? Paz and Kada. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name,
You're
but I
muted,
see.
Pat.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm happy to be here. I wasn't going to share really. I prefer to listen, but I like to share my own experience with, about 30 years ago, I was going to kill myself. I really was, I was so depressed. I lost a fortune. One of my sons passed away. And my wife's boyfriend died. I'm just joking. And then I was at this convention, at this meeting, and the speaker, a good friend actually, he sensed that somebody was in that set of mind, and he said, I took it personally, like I take everything personally, but in this case it was good because he said, "Don't be stupid. Wait for tomorrow. Wait for tomorrow, because something might happen from now until you go to sleep." Well, that was wonderful because I'm still waiting for tomorrow after 25,000 days, and it hasn't come yet. And I still want, not really, I'm not going to kill myself today, but I want to be here to witness all these wonderful things happening. But I just wanted to share that experience, if it is good for anybody. I hope, really, if anybody who called the hotline and they be trained to wait for tomorrow, something might happen. And whether they know it or not, because tomorrow hasn't come. At least for me, it hasn't come in 25,550 days. I saw this video in YouTube 20 with the numbers 25,550 days. Highly recommended, because when I got it, it was like I found a diamond. I sent it to a couple of friends, and when they saw and listened to the video, they said, "Wow, I found a diamond too." I said, "Send it to me, please." Anyway, thank you for allowing me to share. Have a wonderful rest of the day. I appreciate it.
Wow, that was good. I really believe that if we put off suicide, something will happen. That if you wait until tomorrow, something has to happen, because that's where God, Jesus, Holy Spirit steps in with something because you delayed it. And I really believe that. And spirit people who are, I've heard psychics say something to that effect, that if you change your mind, even for a short time, something will happen that will allay that desire to go ahead with the suicide. So that's very good. You got that book, right? It was a book that you read. I don't remember, what was the title of it again? 500.
Well, there is a book, yes, that is called Hear Yourself, I think. Hear Yourself. How to Find Peace? Yes, Hear Yourself. That's the book. But the video,
I'm sorry.
The YouTube video is 10 minutes video. And it's really enlightening to me. I highly recommend to anybody, because then when I understood that today is the most important day of my life, and that I'm only here for certain, and this body is limited. Something opens up completely. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the YouTube video, I wrote it down, 2,550 days. I'm going to check it out. It sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. No, the video in numbers, you have to type 25,550 days. And I guess the reason they title that it is like 10 or 15 minutes. It's in English and Spanish, because they interview these college students in Barcelona, and they ask them, how many days do you think is the lifespan of a human being if you live 70? And I guess that's where the title came, 25,550. If you multiply 70, but 365 gives you 25,550 days. And but it was, and they asked these college students, and they all answer, 1,000,000 days, 500,000 days, 300. And when they hear the answer, 25,550, it's like, my God, wow. And even if I live to 100, which is 36,550, still is not many. But well, whatever it is, one day is enough for me. Such an abundance. One day, one breath is enough. But yeah, and the book is I saw it in the book is. Hold on one second. I have it here. I'm reading it. Yes, how to find peace in a noisy world. In a noisy world. Did you get it? How to find? I think it's a bestseller around the world.
Yeah.
Well, I think what happens is when we're on a path of recovery, the universe will present us with a video, a book, a message that we need to hear in order to get back on our journey. I think that happens to a lot of us. So I'm so happy that you were able to get a lot out of this YouTube video, which I am definitely going to check out, and the book. But I know that happens to me when I'm struggling. I'll find the message in the form of a podcast, a YouTube video, an Audible book. But I'll find the message in whatever form that I need to hear, that tells me what I need to know in order to get back on track. So, I guess it's all about being grateful for each other, because we're all here to help each other get home to heaven. So, as Sherry says, it's all coming together and it's all good. I'm really glad you were able to find that video and find that book when you were experiencing complete darkness. And I think we all have times in our life when we experience the dark night of the soul. I mean, it happens to all of us. I mean, that's something else I'm learning lately. And I think that's part of what's like reconnecting me to this friend of mine that has been triggering me for the last couple years. But recently, the past couple months, the triggers have seemed to alleviated themselves. They're no longer there, and I feel very connected to her. I feel like there's a lot of just beautiful emotional intimacy in our friendship that hasn't been there for a while. And I think part of what's happening is that she's sharing her struggles with me. And it's not that I want anyone else to struggle, but What I do enjoy is an honest and authentic connection. And I think that's so important because I think in the past, she was pretending or, yeah, pretending like everything was all together. And on some level, I sensed that that wasn't authentic. I sensed that it was a pretense. And I think that was what was blocking my connection to her. And lately, she's just been very honest. She's been very authentic. And I'm very drawn to that energy. Again, it's not that I want anyone else to struggle, but I do think to be honest is just healing. And I also think that's what God wants from us. God wants honesty and authenticity. Did you want to say something, Paz? Maybe not. I heard something. I didn't know if you wanted to talk, but anyone that feels like talking, just feel free to share. Well, what do you think about honesty and authenticity, Myrna? Even if it's being honest about the challenges that we're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah, honesty and what did you say, authenticity. But I
Mhm.
guess if you're not honest, you're not being authentic. So do you want to experience authenticity, then you have to really be honest. And to be honest with yourself is to sometimes, look in the mirror and say, I really don't like well, I don't mean that, literally looking in the mirror, but I'm saying, to sort of see your reflection and to come to terms with the things that need to be changed and recognize what they are. And that's really, what it is to be authentic, I think. Yeah, honesty is truth. And you get back to the Course in Miracles. It's all truth, isn't it? I think that's what drew me to the Course in Miracles to begin with. When I began to recognize that it's all truth, and I didn't know what to expect. When I first came upon the Course in Miracles, I thought it was a religious teaching and it was something that I wasn't interested in. I put it aside. And then I picked it up one day, and really, once it pulled me in with a little bit of willingness, because that's all really it asks for, you begin to see that it's really all truth, whether you want to face it or not. It's true, it's all true. So you need to forgive. Yes, that's true. In order to be peaceful, you need to be feeling love in your heart. I mean, true love in your heart. That's what it takes to be truthful. To be non-judgmental. That's what it takes to be peaceful. So all of these things that were coming to light were things that I was not doing. I was talking to people because I didn't like the way they, whatever it was that I had against them at the time. I don't even remember. It was so many years ago. Remember, the Course in Miracles came into my hands in 1990. So it's been a really. I don't want to say it's an uphill struggle. It's not, because the Course in Miracles is really not a struggle. The Course in Miracles for me was a tremendous, like a tremendous weight was lifted. I knew that, I knew certain things about myself that needed to be changed. And I think anybody can change. You can't change someone else. You can only change yourself if you want to change. And that was another recognition that came to me, was that I really wanted to change. And then you have to, once you change, it's so easy to go back to your old ways. It's so easy to fall back into the old, patterns. And that happened to me too, through A Course in Miracles, falling back into my old patterns, putting the Course in Miracles aside and saying, I don't really need it. I like being who I am. I don't want to change. And then I experienced a lot of pain after that. I think I was at a very low point in my life. Once again, I had I've been studying the Course in Miracles, but at one point in my life, I put it away because I was experiencing a lot of difficulty. My husband was ill, and I was very, very ill, and there was a lot of trauma really coming up for me as well with him. And when I should have embraced the Course in Miracles, I sort of pushed it aside. And I think it was after when he passed away, that I needed to pick it up again, because now I was feeling very guilty. And emotions that I had thought I had licked previously were coming back into my psyche, the guilt and the fear, and we bring up fear again. It's all connected. And after that, I never let go of the Course in Miracles again. And that's when I decided to write Private Lessons with Jesus. I also wrote another book, Letters to Heaven and Back, in which I wrote letters and to Jesus and to my husband Charlie, and sort of relating what was coming to me from those, from that. And I found that for me that was a tremendous healing mechanism, using the now I want to talk to you, and using my thoughts to now let in what I was hearing. And for me, I still do that. I'll ask a question and I do wait for the answer, and it does come to me. The answer always comes to me. Okay, because you wait, you listen, and it comes to you either in a thought, either in words, or a feeling, but the answer does come. So
Yeah, we all have the answers within us. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. A Course in Miracles is teaching us to listen to our inner wisdom. It's interesting because when you share a problem or a challenge with a friend, I know for myself, sometimes it's nice to hear someone else's viewpoint on something that I'm struggling with. But, that's I know the 12-step program, when you have a problem with any kind of substance, whether it be alcohol or cigarettes or codependency or food or whatever your problem is, usually it stems from some emotional pain point that has not been fully healed. So you turn to the addiction to block you from feeling what needs to be felt. If we could just like feel whatever pain point is coming to the surface, if we could just like allow the darkness to come to the surface and just sit with it, we wouldn't need to turn to substance. But when we go to the 12-step group, this is helping us to heal our addiction. It's helping us to feel our feelings, because I love the 12-step process. And also what's interesting with the 12-step group is when you're sharing whatever is coming to the surface for healing purposes, nobody is allowed to try to fix anyone else. Nobody is allowed to tell anyone else what they should or shouldn't do. The only thing you're allowed to do if you're practicing the 12-step properly is just be fully present when someone else is sharing, and then hear them. And I think if we could all be fully present for our friends when they are sharing and not attempt to fix them, but just be present for their pain, and extend love and compassion to them, and allow them to come to their own conclusion, and decide for themselves what they want to do, that's a very healing and a very beautiful way to interact with other people. Not to try to fix anyone, just send them love And I think we all have access to our own inner wisdom, and we're all able to find our own answers. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. So, because we all do have the answers within. And I think that's beautiful. Any more thoughts, Myrna?
Not really, no. It's 4 o'clock, so not even
It's
entertaining
4 o'clock.
thoughts.
So on
Yes.
that note, I will end with the introduction of A Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And what that means is the only thing that's real is the love. Thank God for that. And thank you all for being here with us today. Paz, Regis, Myrna, I love you so much. And I will thank you. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Susan, Michelle, and Myrna. So nice to see you guys. And thank you, Paz. Very nice to hear from you as well. Welcome to our group. And I'm going to go ahead and shut down this.